duties on suspension, so his badge has been taken away and his gun's been taken away and he's behind a desk. And so the police department has to decide, and the district attorney has to decide what is to be done. If they determine that the police officer actually lied, what is to be done with the situation here.
And in our first segment, I just want to go back. We were speaking to an activist in Palestine. They're protesting the wall over there. 2 youths have just been shot, a 9-year-old and a 17-year-old. And a lot of what's happening has been instigated by this other incident where a Palestinian was held by Israeli forces. One of the officers was holding him by the arm while another pointed a rifle at his leg and shot him with a rubber bullet. This was captured on video. And it was part of, that video was broadcast around the world, and it was part of this Israeli group called Shooting Back, which hands out cameras to Palestinians to capture exactly this kind of incidents. Can you talk about that? It's related to Eyewitness Video, this kind of citizens journalism.
Yes, this group, B'Tselem, which has a project, Shooting Back, has got a magnificent project. I was lucky enough to be on a panel with Oren Yakubovich, who runs that project for B'Tselem. We were in a panel in Istanbul talking about basically watching police and the army and that sort of thing. And what they do is they hand out cameras to people who are living in these areas where there's so much trouble and that are militarized areas. And so what happens is if you have a news crew in there, the army is a lot less likely to do some of the things that they're going to do when there's no news crew there. So they really have this brilliant project where they hand out many, many cameras, and then when this violence occurs or these problems occur or these controversial moments occurs, it's possible to create a record. And governments that use physical force and coercion will always also use control of information. And so using the digital technology, B'Tselem and Shooting Back is able to leverage information to show what really happened and actually put some power back in the hands of people who are the most oppressed.
Eileen Clancy, I have a question for you. Moving back to New York City, there's a piece in today's paper about the NYPD calling on citizens for amateur video evidence. And New Yorkers, the NYPD is asking for regular citizens to upload video or photo evidence of anything they see that might be suspicious onto their website. What's your response to this?
Well, I have to say, it really seems like a public relations move in relation to this police officer that was caught by an amateur videotape. And what they're asking is, we are going to have to investigate ourselves, and we would like you to give us all the evidence. And it'd be different if they were saying, why don't you give it into the Civilian Complaint Review Board? That's a watchdog agency. But unfortunately, NYPD has a dismal record of investigating themselves, I would say. And the Civilian Complaint Review Board actually lately put out a report really contending that even when, in the very small number of instances, they substantiate a complaint against a police officer, and they go to the police department for a trial and to get discipline, that they're disciplined in many fewer occasions than they used to be. So it's really not clear, what the benefit of that is.
And so now we're just 3 weeks away from the Democratic Convention in Denver. Protests are planned for there. There's a massive security presence that's being planned, which we're also going to talk about later in the program. But what are your plans? What is Eyewitness Video's plans for 08?
Yeah, well, we're going to bring a crew to both presidential conventions. It's pretty exciting, and one of the reasons we're very interested in covering the conventions is really not sort of because we want sort of bad things to happen, but because what happens is the focus of the federal government, the law enforcement agencies, and all that is very keenly directed at demonstrators. And when you cover these events completely, you're able to see the patterns. The patterns emerge, and that's what we used the Republican Convention for in New York. We were able to find out that the police were using agents provocateurs. We were able to find out, we were very surprised that the district attorney's office was faking video evidence, police video evidence, and we were able to show that the police officers lied in many instances. So we don't know what's going to happen in Denver and Minneapolis, St. Paul, but we're going to be there to cover it, and we'll be hoping that people share their videotapes with us. And if you'd like to help us, please send a contribution in through the website.
What do you mean faking video evidence?
Well, what happened in the 2004 demonstrations is in one instance, I discovered that there were 2 different copies of the same police videotape. And the district attorney had given a defense attorney a copy of a police tape for use at a trial and said, this is our evidence against you, this is our video evidence against you. And I found a copy of the police tape with a lot more video in it than was handed over as evidence. And it turned out that the Manhattan District Attorney's Office had removed 2 sections, and it would have to be deliberate. You can't do this by mistake. 2 entire sections of several minutes. The sections that showed that the man who had these charges, Alexander Dunlop, was innocent of the charges. And it was extraordinary. And when that was discovered, the district attorney immediately dropped all the charges.
We're talking to Eileen Clancy, the founder of Eyewitness Video. And as we continue to look at surveillance and the conventions, we turn now to a news story out of Denver. Federal and state law enforcement officials in Colorado plan to increase intelligence operations during the Democratic